This is going to be a combo video. Start out with a little bit of an update with the text message that I got from my wife when I was out in the woods this afternoon on what's been going on with her in the chicken coop. Now, they went running. My wife and my kids went jogging this afternoon. I went in the woods and I texted her that I wouldn't be home when she got back, and this is the text that she sent. They're being consistent. That's a really good thing. Hopefully, she'll be lucky and catch them eventually. Now, the rest of the afternoon, I walked around the woods. I did find something kind of interesting. I'll show you guys that. I'm also testing out, I've got my thermal rigged up. Me and Lloyd are going into the mountains in North Georgia. So I'm getting some stuff ready for that. Got a new setup with my thermal and a remote PTZ, so I can go hands-free. And also want to talk about something that it's something we need to pay more attention to, and something that as researchers we can use to our advantage. And those of you that are out there, one example, the Not So Perfect Bigfoot show. She is a former canine handler. I want to talk about dogs at the end of this video and how important I think they are, and how I think they're a tool just sitting there, just waiting to be deployed appropriately. The best alarm or indicator that these creatures are around ever. Better than any technology you could ever buy. Right, we have the Night Ride thermal that is attached to in a remote PTZ mount that is on, I've got a tripod that you can take one of the legs off of and just use that one leg. And it is mounted in the backpack. The reason why it's canted like that is because the way it's sitting down at the bottom of the backpack, I've already figured out exactly where it's level. And the whole goal of this is to be able to walk, look 360 degrees at what the Night Ride sees. I watched that through the phone, and then use the remote to turn the camera so I can record behind myself. I can record it, actually sticks up high enough to where it goes over my head, so I can record in front of myself or behind myself, left, right, whatever I want to do. And the whole purpose is really for the recording behind myself or to the side, because I fully believe that these creatures take advantage of our movement. When we move, they move. When we make noise, they move. When there's ambient noise like airplanes, stuff like that, they move. They're very conscious of our movement and their movement at the same time. I've actually witnessed one of them use a line of sight where it kept a tree in between me and it at the same time, and it actually knew that I was trying to move into a position to where I would be able to see straight down the back of this tree, and if it were to run off, I would be able to see it. Well, it looked like it realized what I was trying to do, and right before I got one step away from being able to look to the side of this tree and down the hill, blocking off its exit, and it darted away. So it's also to keep me from, having something up to my eye and staring in a certain direction. All right, here's the setup in action. Now, when I'm walking into an area, I'll have the thermal facing forward, and then as I get further into the area, I'll turn it around. It's actually pretty stable, even as I walk. Now, there is no stabilization in the unit right there, so I'll have to use if I actually record something good, I have to use a program after the fact, but for the most part, it works pretty good. And as I walk, all I have to do is look at the screen, and that's how I direct the camera. Pretty cool. Alright, so I just walked up on this. There's obviously been traffic through here. Now, the question is, did this just fall out of a tree and land like this? So that's completely separate and broke on that end, that end, and that end. It's in there. I find it very hard to believe that that fell in like that. I mean, it's technically possible. I find stuff. You walk through the woods long enough, you're going to find branches that fell out of trees and stuck in the ground, but this one looks a little abnormal. This is also very interesting that it's just lightly laid up there like that. Now this is the same area where I found logs. About as big around as, well, about like that right there. I found 3 logs of old trees stuck in the ground 10 feet apart from each other. Now that one's growing out of the ground, but these, they were 3 in a row. And they were all right in here, like 1, 2, 3, about 10, 12 feet apart, and they were shoved into the ground. So this creek goes all the way to the wildlife management area, which is about 2 miles from where I'm at now. And they can travel these creeks especially down on all fours, and go for miles without being detected. I think that may have been part of the reason why I've had activity on my property for so many years, because this is probably a major travel corridor, because this creek goes so far that way into the management area that they probably use this creek to get all over the place. Just an absolutely beautiful area. Very lucky to live near an area like this and to have these creatures like live around this area. I don't take it for granted at all. That's part of why I'm so driven to try to get answers. Because I feel so lucky. I feel like I mean, I guess it sounds a little dramatic, but I think I owe it to people to try to do what I can to get as much information about these things as I possibly can. Because there's not a lot of people that are put in this situation. But I'm going to make a full video about it later, but the situation around here is, it's about to change, and not for the better, which means I'm going to have to change with it. I'm definitely going to be looking for more spots that are closer to where I live and where some of my teammates live, so we can start getting out the field more. And if any of you live in Georgia, live like this west of Atlanta, maybe an hour or two north of Atlanta, and you have a property where you think these creatures are at, and you're willing to let our team come out there and research, let me know. I would love to do it. I know everybody on the team would love to do it. One of the biggest advantages that I have are my dogs, especially one of them, my older female. Ever since the beginning, she's been very aware that these things are around. Now, we've all heard the stories of Sasquatch not liking dogs or killing dogs. That's probably situational. I have no doubt that if my dogs got out and went and attacked the Sasquatch, the Sasquatch would have no problem killing them. But something weird that I've noticed over the years is the fact that they don't do a lot when it's just me outside. It's almost like they intentionally wait on my dogs to be out there. 99% of the time, the activity starts. I know, I get a good feeling usually before I have activity. We'll say maybe 50% of the time. Because number one, all the dogs in the surrounding neighborhoods I'm not surrounded on one side. About 800 to 1,000 yards away, there's a neighborhood that has dogs. There's one or two houses, maybe half a mile or so in front of me, up towards the road. All those dogs usually start barking around sundown, off and on. My dogs act restless pretty much the whole night. And I think what's happening is I think these creatures are intentionally making noises to get the dog's attention. The audio recording from my back deck, when it verbalized and it actually talked, it did that right after I let my dog outside. Several times I've gotten recordings off my camera that I've got outside of there being some kind of breaking noise or a vocalization, and then the dogs respond in that area, and I'm not even outside. Mass majority of times when something happens on my property, it starts with a rock. My dog goes towards where the rock was thrown, or it starts with a break. And it hardly ever happens when it's just me by myself. There's something, I don't know if they're testing the dogs or they just like messing with them and playing with them. I'm not sure what it is, but like I've mentioned before, I've seen now 4 different times where objects, sticks or rocks, will fly out of the wood line and land right in front of my dog. The first time it happened, I was standing on my front porch and I heard a rock hit, and I look up and see it roll and slide underneath the front paws of my dog. My dog looked down, got it in its mouth, whimpered, and dropped it and ran up on the porch. Blew my mind. I've got a video on the channel where I'm sitting in my driveway. Unfortunately, I'm not recording right there where my dog is, but I hear and see the stick come flying out of the woods and hit the ground, and you can hear it on the video. Then my dog runs up, nudges it with its nose, and picks it up and is playing with it. Like, these creatures are actually playing with dogs. But I think the best technology is going to be, the biggest tool for us to be able to use to get information. But dogs, we really need to look into, as a community, trying to figure out a good way to train dogs to not only not be aggressive and not attack unless they're ordered to, but to actually alert when these creatures are around. Now, I think a lot of times out of fear, dogs do it anyway. I see it all the time in the neighborhoods. And it almost seems intentional. It almost seems intentional, like they're stirring the dogs up. I don't know what that is, but I can usually tell now, after years of doing this, that when all the dogs all around me and my dogs are pacing back and forth inside, the odds are I'm going to have something happen that night.